Thank you very much. Distinguished panelists and members of the audience, it's a real privilege and honor to be here with you. First, I want to say that I'm the director of ISGAP, the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. We have a center here in Europe, in Rome, with Robert Hassan and Mr. Callow, who's here. They run programming in Italy, and they're responsible for Europe. We're also a nonprofit in Israel, Canada, and the United States, and we run programming, seminars, and conferences at top-tier universities around the world. We have a small unit here in Rome, in La Sapienza University. We do a summer school at Oxford University, where we train professors to learn how to teach courses on contemporary anti-Semitism. We're entering our 4th year. We have about 92 graduates. And before we started this program, there were literally no courses on contemporary anti-Semitism at the university level. One day after International Holocaust Remembrance Day, in 2018, there were no courses at universities on contemporary anti-Semitism. Think about that, please. We also do major research projects. We're looking at the funding of American universities by Gulf states and radical Islam within the United States, and we're also working on an international research project on developing a tool to measure anti-Semitism. This is some of the work that we do. I wanted to answer the question that Rabbi Lau proposed, the why. The why that he kept hearing as a child during the Holocaust. And to be honest, particularly after a whole day of listening to the speeches, my honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And I've been engaged in the study of anti-Semitism, of human rights, for many years. I don't know. Henri Bernard Levy said that the role of an intellectual is to shed light where there is darkness. To shed light where there is darkness. And yet we're living in a time when we don't speak about the elephant in the room. We do not speak about the elephant in the room. And ladies and gentlemen, Nazism is alive and well. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was the lie that continues, is now a core element, not the periphery, a core element of a reactionary social movement that has swept to power in too many countries, in too many nations, and in too many institutions. The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, as Elie Wiesel often said, the crematoriums, the Holocaust, did not begin with the bricks and mortars of the crematoriums or the railroad tracks. It began with words and with ideas. And the words and ideas of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which justified the removal of Jews from their work, from their homes, into ghettos, and later the final solution. Those words and those ideas are the core of the ideology, not of Islam, but of political Islam, of radical Islam, of the Muslim Brotherhood, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Iranian revolutionary regime, which, by the way, members of the European countries of the European Union and members of the OSCE do business, lots of business, with these reactionary movements and these regimes. So one day after International Holocaust Memorial Day, can we please acknowledge the fact that short-term gain, short-term profit, strategic interests, short-term strategic interests are what rules the day. When the P5+1 did the deal with Iran, there was a separation of human rights, of human dignity, of democratic principles with geostrategic interests. There was a separation of foreign policy of nations that are the leading democratic nations in the world, the light onto the nations, to do a deal. I was one of the leaders of the anti-apartheid movement in the 1980s and the 1990s, and could you imagine if democratic countries gave billions of dollars of cash and over $100 billion of trade and money to the apartheid white supremacist regime? At the height of apartheid, what would we have done? And yet, this is acceptable, and this is business as usual. The head of a very important research center at Oxford University recently said that the mission of a true believer is to continue the work, is to finish the work of Hitler. A leader of a research center at Oxford University recently said that the believers need to complete the work of Hitler. At Oxford.
Thank you.
No, I'm giving...
You have to finish.
Okay, how many minutes left?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Yosef Kawadawi. Yosef Kawadawi and the Muslim Brotherhood started Islamic studies at Oxford. This ideology, this anti-Semitism that we experience, is coming into our institutions, into our media, into our universities, as mainstream education, not just in Middle East study centers, but in mainstream education. And if we are to confront contemporary anti-Semitism, we need to address this. And I'll just finish by saying that Elie Wiesel also said that anti-Semitism begins with Jews and it never ends with Jews. Today in Syria, over 600,000 people have been killed, 13 to 14 million refugees leaving Syria, going into Turkey and coming into Europe, and I dare say, creating this rise of nationalism in Europe. It begins with the Jews, the Zionists, the Israelis. Focus on the Jew and the Israeli and watch what is happening to our societies. And ladies and gentlemen, I would argue it's incumbent not just on intellectuals, but on policymakers to address this issue in a very serious manner, to isolate political Islam and to protect the lives and the rights and citizenship of Muslims in democratic societies and around the world, as well as to safeguard our democratic principles and human rights.
Thank you. I would say